Greetings, fellow time and space. It's your host, Tomoya Shadow, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back once again to some more of the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're going to continue right where we last left off in the last live stream, and we shall be tackling the second part of the trial in episode 4. Now, let me go ahead and get one thing out of the way before we do get started. Tomorrow, I will not be live streaming, mainly due to the fact that I will be focused on a lot of things that will be happening tomorrow, because tomorrow is the start of June, which is also the start of the quote-unquote E3 month. I know E3 is not happening this month, but tomorrow is the start where a lot of people are going to be announcing game stuff and whatnot, and it's starting off with a bang for me, because not only am I going to be seeing a new trailer from the Pokemon Company for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we're going to be getting another gameplay trailer for Sonic Frontiers through IGN First around the exact same time. So I will be focused on that most of the day, and then later on that day, we will also be getting information from the Ninjala dev team about their next patch for Ninjala, which I do play Ninjala a lot, so I will be focused on that. So throughout that day, I will be mostly focused on these things and talking with my friends about it, who are obviously going to be excited about this stuff as well. So that's going to be my day pretty much filled up right there. So that is going to take up my day, and I will definitely bring back the live stream on Thursday. So without further ado, let's get started right away with today's adventure and see what's in store for us. Alonzi! Ooh, water. This water's good. Good and cold water. 2nd November, 12:33 p.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Oh, there you are, Odo. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Gina. You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina. As was I. Possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange that there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission. Oh dear, if it was deliberate, it puts me in mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Seeve. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zeeks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth-hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent matched the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze, and it was me what took him in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth-hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. Don't tar him with the same brush as you, Sholmes. Yes, well, then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zeeks for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zeeks, and Cosima. I feel as though he knew we'd arrive at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. This recess will be over shortly. Yes, you're right. Cosima was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial, and he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Are you ready then, Miss Susato? Yes. Second November, 1 p.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court hearing of Barak von Zeeks, here present, who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asogi. My lord. Have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men into the courtroom. Jesus, Chuckles, stop eating! These two men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court. I am Fabian de Rosio, a descendant of the great de Rosio family from Nice in France. And my name is Peppino de Rossi. I am the third son of the great familia de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli. The two men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility. Those who graduate from Temis and Temzik as the future leaders of Europe. But, do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Alors, I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little gray cells of my brain. That is all I'm trying to do, So, that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out? Oui, you can say that. Not bad, eh? He has the grand ideals, but the petty plans. This strange combination is at the charm of the hilarious brothers. See, couple? Listen to me, Peppino. I have two things to say to you. Eh? Che? Are you about to tell me one of your candy anecdotes? Eviva! Firstly, I want you to stop calling me the capo. And secondly, we're not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business. Che bello! There it is! The capo's drop a card. The furrowed brow. It is deep, capo? The furrow and the meaning of your words. The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true? Oui, c'est ça. And what exactly was the nature of this deception by which you planned to defraud? Alors, I will explain it. No, capo. Leave it to me. As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse, crying like the Trevi fountain. Those dogs, one day the world will respect us redheads. Every night he would bury his head in his pillow and... C'est bien, Peppino, enough! I would explain the rest. The first step was a newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we released the same notice in every paper in London. Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled To the Red-Headed League. Oui, c'est ça. I am honest that you have seen it. It states that the only condition for joining the League is having flame-colored hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the League, you can receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement. From each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings. And with the money, to France. It was a plan most elegant known. No, it was most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk, like a coaster's orange barrel. And the day on which all of these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day. Oui, I have seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see in the rest of my life. See, and now, every time I see the capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach. Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry? The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told. Naturally, neither of these men could have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. De Rosio and Mr. De Rossi, you will now give your formal testimony for the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph. Of course. We are always ready to help with the law. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assemble in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph. Eh, Capo? No, I don't remember him. Obviously, he is dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park. Allora, this victim has nothing to do with us. You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault that we got caught in the first place. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? Oui, I am quite certain. We did not interview this man. Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise. It must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception, however. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances. Uffa! With this attitude, we get to nowhere, huh? He's really a sulkin now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover. Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, eh? That is ridiculous. There's no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, which means it's quite possible that when he was killed. Very well. The defense may proceed with the cross-examination now. Ah, yes, my lord. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assemble in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph. No, I don't remember him, and obviously he is dead now, but I assure you he was not in the park. How are you so sure? Hold it! But according to what you said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day. Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the red of the day. Surely then, you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present? Normally, the red hair is very distinctive, eh? But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around, then it is just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could have given us, maybe then we would recall. That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of that factor. If there was a man with a red hairpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I could have forgotten him. Cosmo said these two had only been shown that photograph, and they'd been told nothing else at all. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim? For example, his profession. I could certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. But what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? The man is a photograph. A detective. Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, but this changes nothing. It doesn't? Something to add, Mr. De Rossi? Yes? See, I am always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper. What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance? Eh? What did he just say? About the detective? Yes, that. Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You have said enough already. But why, Capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said, I am an inspector from Scotland Yard. What? Good Lord! Well, he's certainly not the best of partners. Order! 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 Explain this volte-face in your testimony, witness. He's simple. A man who was at the park said there was no such man. Madai, what are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten, eh? I have forgotten nothing. Nobody likes these caves to the park. Basta, Capo, basta! You beat me at the many things, but not two, the memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat the pasta, no one is a faster. But you are inferior to me in every other way, so shut up! Ugh! Drop Todd, the damage is done. Indeed it is, sir. Oui, there was a man who came to the park, and he said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. He was someone else. How can you be so sure? Because, to start with, his face was completely different. See, it's true, it's true. The man who came was a younger. His face was clean-shaven. His eyes were sadder. His chin was thinner. No resemblance whatsoever, then. Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him, if you are really a detective, show us the proof. See, the capo here, he doesn't take a no nonsense, eh? But he was well prepared. He said he had identification. Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification? That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord? Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer their identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity? Clearly the papers were fake. Certo, capo. You are a genius. As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh? And what happened after he announced that he was a detective? He became very annoying. He said, you are under investigation. So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park. He was fantastical. Hey look, here's the identification. So you stole it from the man? He had it coming. He made us very scared. But he was not who he said he was. Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for those identification papers to be entered into evidence. But I like them. Now, let us return to the witness's testimony. Before we do, let me take a look-see at this. Metropolitan Police warrant card. Let's open it up and see what's inside. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's Tobias Gregson. Oh no. Tobias Gregson. Wait, what? This Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me. But how? And the department and identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say? I know it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. But that's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all. Oh no, so it was really Gregson's identification?
Objection!
I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade? Why, Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, counsel? Is this really a fake or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves. Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen. That is the boss's. No question about it. It can't be. As I suspected, the undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation. Hello! Order! Order! But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on me about it. If you lose something, report it at once, he'd say. Could it be, then, that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physically? What are you saying? Unable to? You're not suggesting. Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No. Order! 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 The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know nothing! I done nothing! Pull yourself together, Peppino! Mon Dieu, you can behave a little more like a master criminal than that, non? Now I wish I had returned to Italia! Stop crying, Peppino, please! Otherwise Mime, stop your whining and start talking! Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story and consider the great... I know nothing! I done nothing! But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances under which you came by them. For crying out loud. The truth is, we took a prisoner and kept him for us tonight at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was a real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We took the man's identification from him and shut him in the room next to ours. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. He spent the night in the nice room. It was nothing like prison, really. This is outrageous! You imprisoned the man! But no! See, no! It was not like a prison. He was a very comfortable, and a calm, and a happy. Aye, couple? It was never part of my plan. I swear it. Oof, so you think it wasn't my fault, aye? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong. By one little day. I do not think it was your fault, Peppino. I know it. No. Per favor, capo. It's not fair. You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison, gentlemen. I don't believe this. How could he have been a real detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout. No tussle, huh? A little tussle, huh?
Hold it!
So you fought with him? What do you mean by a little tussle exactly? Oh, it was nothing. Just a minor incident. The false inspector is a real piece of the work. Aye, couple? What happened? It was a disaster. We give him a nice room, and what does he do then? In the middle of the night, he tries to escape through the ventilator. Can you blame him? We chased him, bien sûr, and caught him again. Can you blame us? Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you? So, who do you think we are? Of course not! I simply got hold of him again and took him back to the room.
Excuse me.
Mr. De Rossi, is something wrong? Me? Something Mr. De Rossi's just said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about? Cavolo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak of from personal experience. Personal experience? Such is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more. The truth is, the night before we put the red-headed league plan into action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away. It's a shame you didn't manage it. But the capo here, he came after me like at the turbine, huh? And he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it. Aye, capo?
Bruises, you say?
You want to see her? You want to see my fantastical bruises? Bruh! That's enough, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you. What do I do? I show you or I don't. I show you or I don't. You do. Now! Allora, if everyone wants to see, then I do it. Oh, ecco. You see? It's still very visible, eh? That red ring around your neck? You got that when you were dragged back to the house? See, the capo sometimes he is very rough. And I said that's enough! Peppino's neck has nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word.
Yes. What is your opinion, Counsel?
About this red ring around Mr. De Rossi's neck? I wonder, does it matter? Wait a minute, let me take a look-see at something right fast. Where's that picture of Gregson? I wonder if... I can't really tell. Wait! No! Wait! Gossip! He had a red ring around his neck. Gregson doesn't have one. So it had to... so it means it is important because the person that they were after was not Gregson. Mr. De Rossi, I'm going to have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck. Aye, capo. You see? Everyone is interested in what I say, huh? Ugh.
Very well. You will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. De Rossi.
See, if you really want to know. He tried to escape, but the capo put the collar on him and dragged him back. Like what he did to me, see? Excuse me, but Gregson doesn't have that mark on him! So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito. No, it was not like that. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only... However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains.
What inconsistency is this, Counsel?
I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck. Eh? But that makes no sense. It was me who took up the collar of the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck, just like I have. Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim, who was put in the collar more recently than Mr. De Rossi.
Indeed. That is most peculiar.
But what we tell you, huh? We say this from the beginning. Many times. Oui, Peppino is right. The man in the photograph is somewhat different to the man we had captives that night.
Order! Order! Order!
It would appear then that on the day before the incident, The man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all. If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book, issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the Red-Headed League in his diary for that day, which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely.
The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation.
But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of a real inspector's identification?
Does the defense have some plausible explanation, counsel?
The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, Mr. Naruhodo. Because those are the facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Headed League's enrollment is revealed by information in the court record, I believe.
Good gracious!
Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo. So why don't you help us all to see whatever truth it is that you've apparently seen? Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Mr. DeRosio and Mr. DeRossi? An imposter. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time. On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification? See, that's right. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, the cop will drag them from a pillar to a post with a dog collar. Mon Dieu, Peppino, I was not so harsh as you say, huh? But who was that false inspector, Who was he? Clearly the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night.
I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson?
Take that!
Gossip. Goodness me! Isn't that...
One of the witnesses who was at the stand in this very courtroom earlier today. A nameless man, whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by. What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not? What has happened to his lip? Ah! See, this man is not for the Red-Headed League, He's looking for the Twisted Lip League, no? Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noticed something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. Eh? What? The defense demands that Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand.
Order! Order! Bailiff, bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom. Immediately! Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness beside him.
Now what's going on here, I've always had this me. It's a birthmark, isn't it? A birthmark, you say? I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you. Something about an inspector again. But I'm telling you, you've got it all wrong as usual. You're denying all knowledge of it? Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, hey? Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Now, we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. DeRosso and Mr. DeRossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you? Do we have any choice? We are in a bigger trouble, hey, couple?
That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony.
The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man. He's right, see? You think we would have forgotten these grand lips, huh? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I'm no interest in any red-headed league. I'm all alone in the world, me. I've no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this?
You're wearing a disguise now, I bet. It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man.
What have I been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointed testimony. That's right. I'm just a simple peddler, remember? Fresno Street's all I know. How would I have come by a police inspector's identification book, eh?
Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... A brief cross-examination, I think, counsel. Very brief.
Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something? I stand steadfastly at your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo.
The inspector and identification revisited. The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man.
It's right, see? You think we would have forget these grand lips, huh?
I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league.
Hold it!
So, you'd heard of the Red-Headed League, had you?
You don't get a name like Gossip from nothing, eh? It's my business to know what's going on in town. I sold that tasty tidbit to a fair few redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got Sandwich to cough up for it.
Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts. Who knows?
Well, as you can see, my own hair's not got a hint of red in it. And in any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You wouldn't catch me sidling off to some other part of town. No, sir. No, not likely.
Excuse me.
Mr. DeRossio! Lee, can I help you?
Did Mr. Gossip's words just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps?
It was the other day, when I was looking for a place near the park. A small house or something.
To be the headquarters of your Red-Headed League, yes.
I visited an housing agent on Lime Street, and there I saw him. This man was paying money to the agent.
What? Mr. Gossip with the housing agent?
Lee, he had some kind of contract in his hand, and they were clearly discussing terms. But, no, you're mistaken, chum. I never left Fresno Street, mate, like I said before. You've mistaken me for someone else, someone with the same face. No, the capo is right. I remember it too. He was paying the man with the bank notes.
With notes?
Like I said, that wasn't me. I was curious why this man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So I looked at the name on the papers.
And what name was written? Mr. Gossip?
No, this man, he lies. He tells you that he has no name. But in fact, his name is Hugh Boone, huh? He's better than Mr. Gossip, I think, see? No! I'm a peddler of tidbits of information, like I said, on Fresno Street, and that's that. I don't much like folk talking about my personal life.
Indeed. And it's not the intention of the court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Very well. I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case.
Good gracious! Do you civilly object, Prosecutor Sogi?
As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings.
Well, I never! In what capacity?
Hugh Boone, the name of the leaseholder of the room. Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, that you start talking. Well, all right. I suppose that might be the case. So your real name is Hugh Boone? Well, just between us, I don't like to blow me own trumpet, but there's no finer peddler of tidbits in town. So I happen to be able to afford a grubby little room in a falling down backstreet townhouse.
You do?
And once every 6 months, I go and pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. I remember now. There were 2 vulgar redheads in there last time. Hey, if either of us are vulgar, it's not to me. Seek again, Peppino. Why didn't you bring this up before? It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss.
You'll update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Boone.
If I must.
So
the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered. That's been here under our noses all along. I rent the room where that fellow was found, it's true. For what difference it makes? I'm all alone in the world, me. I'm no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Incorrect, because if that is your room, then you wouldn't have this! If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why is it that among the sparse furnishings, we found this photograph in the room. Ah! I presume, as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not? Oh, well... Mr. Boone, drop the pretense, and tell the court exactly who you really are. I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler. I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave it alone. As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Inspector Gregson. How can you be so sure? Just look at the man. No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features. But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean?
Yes, counsel, what do you mean?
Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of an elaborate disguise. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make it utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Boone?
Good witness! Are you still hiding the truth from this court?
If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. My lord, the defense believes it can reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court. No, please, no!
Very well then, counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who goes simply by the name of Gossip on the street?
Really, there's only one answer. Where are you? There you are!
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil. Ah!
I don't recall that name, Counsel. Who is this Mr. Vigil?
It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact. This is Mrs. Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course, on that night, you were being held captive by the two red-headed league men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution services for preparation for testifying in this trial, because we've been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence. Now, just you hold on a minute. I don't have the first idea what I'm talking about. Really? It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise! No, please!
Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a wash bowl at once! Mr. DeRossio and Mr. DeRossi, you will restrain the witness.
Oui, my lord. Si, my lord. Ah! No! Stop! Get off! Please! Don't! Hello.
Well, we're now seeing your true features, I presume.
Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face.
It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witness, tell the court, have you seen this man before?
I don't believe it, but... See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw in the park.
Extraordinary!
On the day of the Red-Headed League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson who appeared before Mr. DeRossio and Mr. DeRossi in the park was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all. Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison.
The chief warder? And your career had promise. Why, you would quite possibly have become the future governor of the prisoner. What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street?
Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years? I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I am Daily Vigil. And you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago. So where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from? Boone is the other me. It's a name I invented.
Well, evidently there's a great deal under the surface here.
I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment as Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. The times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street. But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you are the chief warder at Barclay Prison. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my feelings, which is why I have never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street. The scene of the very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler. I transformed myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine. I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room. But that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us this in the first place? I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons, and without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead, you decided to conceal your occupation from them? Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything. Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder at the prison.
Very true. You have kept your family in comfort, despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment.
That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson.
What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth?
It was some years after I had invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. He, the inspector that is, recognized me one day.
Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours?
I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I had become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him.
A secret? What was it?
I was to impersonate the inspector.
What? Impersonate him?
We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me. Visit Orxie's tomorrow and take a statement from the proprietress. It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially.
A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquishes their identification into your care with intent to deceive. That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense.
But why? What was the point of you impersonating him? I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions.
Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, all right? Ever. Even if I end up a croaker.
In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Lime Street was really... Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my Boone disguise and then went on as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away. Well, Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case.
Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asogi.
My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two red-headed league men when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be! After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day. It was me! Oh, goodness! Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Defense, for proving it. What? Ah!
Order! 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 Indeed, it would appear that we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim, as proven somewhat ironically by the defense. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma?
What question, counsel?
It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. 10 years ago? The execution of the professor, Genshin Asogi! I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh! Answer me, man!
One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case?
Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked.
Does the defense concur, counsel?
Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago will tell the tale of Genshin Asogi's last moments. His own father. I know. I do understand that. But even so... Prosecutor Asogi. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me. Please.
Very well.
Then the defense has no objection.
I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness.
The truth is, I remember very little of that time.
You've forgotten!
I'm sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. But for some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Well, 10 years is a long time. But to have forgotten the reason why you left such an important job. Yes, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing, is broken all too easily, which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry? The human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface, and when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't... Kazuma-sama. But if it must be crushed, then so be it, because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out, one way or another. Right. Now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He means to expose the truth, at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, It might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not?
Do it.
I have no idea how this is going to go, but this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events.
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left the post of Chief Warder of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, I don't. This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of prison staff members' employment. A dismissal notice? And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil. What? What? It's mine? So you didn't resign from the prison service at all. For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder from Barclay. No, there's been some mistake. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. This dismissal notice is nonsense. Isn't it? If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison. The 17th of June? Was that the professor's execution? Professor? As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings. It does sound familiar. And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave. The convict came back to life. In the cemetery in the middle of the night, there was a witness. However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder. And the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments. Yes. Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil? Yes, the whole prison. It was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. Shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. What?
Order! Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories at the time have returned?
My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh, my goodness. The papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, Enoch Trevor.
But surely those reports were exaggerated.
There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139. Blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there.
The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering.
I've reviewed the police records from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved.
Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom?
Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape.
You did what?
I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower.
He is spinning faster. I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business, but I cannot help you now. As chief warder, you were responsible for overseeing the execution affair, eh? Well, it seems the fellows at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person.
As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew,
oh, he is spinning faster. In fact, he's going to pass out.
The professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life is over. Ah!
Yep, he passed out. Order! Order! Bailiff, fetch a doctor at once! Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect.
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Kazuma, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
And with that, that is all the time I have for today. I will be continuing this live stream on Thursday. As I stated earlier today, I will not be live streaming tomorrow because I will be more focused on the Pokemon as well as the Sonic Frontiers Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailer, as well as the Sonic Frontiers gameplay reveal tomorrow, as well as the Ninjala Dev Diary later that night. So I will be picking this back up on Thursday. So thank y'all for watching. If you enjoyed the live stream, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out Mother Roy's our page. Click a link in the description below to help our achieve by leaving a commission or two. You won't be disappointed. And of course, don't forget to click that little bell button if you wish to be notified whenever I upload a video or live stream to my channel. And most importantly, if you wish to see a Let's Play done, you can do so checking out my playlist section. All my videos are there archived for European entertainment, so you can watch Let's Plays like God of War, Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and many, many more. Thank you all for watching. As always, hosting my shadows and along Z, and I'll see you for the next adventure. Goodbye, everyone!